Greetings from the MBX. Good things grow here. Here's our very own Nick Story.
Howdy, and welcome to the NBX podcast here in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I'm your host, Nick Story. I didn't say that in the last one.
That's okay. You're so famous now, everyone knows who you are.
Well, wait, now it's back there.
Your face is on a poster.
Yeah.
People know who you are, Nick.
Yours is on a milk carton. I mean, yours is, this is Ray Trejak.
Howdy.
You got a famous last name there, and
That's
he's
right.
our executive director here at the exhibition grounds at MBX and the number 34 Agriculture Society. I like to always get that out there because people don't realize that's, as a board member, director here, we meet under the number 34 Agriculture Society.
AG 34.
AG 34, exactly. Yep. Our branding, our other hats.
Yeah.
And today we have a guest, Eric MOFFATT is
right.
with us today.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, boys.
And
Thanks for coming.
Ray, you know Eric quite well.
No, I never met him.
I just met the guy. I just met this guy today. And
Yeah.
so we're going to have a little talk here and stuff, and we're going to let you people, we like to have local people here and share their stories, share a little bit of stories about their experiences here at the exhibition and events that have went on in the ground, and maybe if they have a little bit of experience with agriculture too, we'll share that too. But that's what we're all about here is, as you can see in the background, good things grow here. And we come up with that because grow can be for agriculture or plants and stuff, but it can also be for everything else. People can grow and the podcast can grow.
The podcast is growing and on the roots of good things happening. And that's why, I mean, I'm not going to, there's 1,000,001 stories we could tell.
Some off air, not.
That's right.
I'm going to be here more as a listener today.
Yeah. I'm going to let you do a quick little intro of yourself, but we told Eric about the show and the fact that we're focusing on good things that you've done for your community, and you were a shoe-in to bring on the show based on my own personal involvement and commitment of what I know you have done. So we're going to dive a little bit into the PG stuff that we can get to anyway.
There you go, for a mass audience.
But tell the people who you are, for those who do not know the unofficial mayor of Fredericton.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Well, no, Steve Hicks is going to do a great job.
Yes,
so
yes,
I don't want to take that away from Steve Hicks. He's just like him. I've been a lifelong resident of Fredericton, lived here my whole life. I've lived from the south side, now onto the north side. So I've kind of captured kind of the whole, grasp of the city. A lot of people would probably recognize me from a lot of sporting events. I've been involved in sports, played hockey, baseball as a kid, and then other sports, moving forward, volleyball, soccer, and so forth. And it was actually interesting, I played some of my, youngest hockey here at the Coliseum.
That's right. Wow.
And, remembering the hallways here with the dressing rooms and, I also refereed hockey here. So like the even smaller dressing room that's out front that used to be there and remembering
the dressing rooms right now.
We are in the
exactly. This is one of these dressing rooms. This is where I would have, wallowed and not scoring any goals, But, and that kind of led me to my career in sport. I never became kind of an elite athlete, but I always loved the management aspect.
Right,
so I got, I went to UNB after graduated from Ecole St. Anne here locally and ended up jumping right into working in university athletics, which led me to over 25 years of, university sports involvement between, UNB, announcing volleyball matches, being on the back end, as well as my, 12 years that I spent with St. Thomas University Athletics, which was, some great moments, hosting some great national championships and Atlantic Conference championships throughout those 25 years. And most recently, I've been the executive director for School Sport New Brunswick. Right. Most people will probably remember us as the New Brunswick Interscholastic Athletic Association.
Right, name change, brand change.
Yeah, NBIA. So that's, it's, as I'm sure you're aware, is that, going through a name change, we actually incorporated, we're celebrating our 100-year anniversary. So I hear you guys, at 199 years, is that, that's an important celebration to hit that 200-year mark. And our association has, we're the oldest association for school sport in the country. And and it's likely that as a multi-sport organization, we are one of the oldest associations. And it's been a really great deep dive and doing a lot of research on the history, just as I'm sure that the NBX has done here in researching its history and the whole transition that the property is going through over the next few years coming. So it's, to try to highlight that history is going to be quite interesting, and hearing about how, school sport has kind of changed over the 100 plus years, because obviously school sport has occurred more than just 100 years. It's just the formalization of our association. So, I've always loved sport. I've been involved in sport. I've always been a promoter of sport. Announcing games from the UNB and Stew, and then all the way to the international stage. Sharing the stage with you, Ray, with FIVB or the Pan Am Games, and on to the FIVB, like the International Beach Volleyball Federation, to many different sporting events that happen in the city, especially in here. I've been involved in some of the fight nights that have occurred here in the past. So it's been really fun to kind of always circle back to this building and in these grounds.
The buildings themselves, we're like a chameleon. Like, it depends on what we've got going on. It can really adapt and change to whatever we need to showcase, from concerts to Vegas style environment, boxing and MMA events, and it lends itself to the fact that so many different things can be done here. There's a home. We have a great inventory throughout the city of Fredericton of venues, and each venue has its own niche and its own piece to do. And you'd be a good one to talk about this, because I think your voice has echoed off the walls of probably every venue in the city and beyond. Right, I would say. I'm gonna throw a name at you, and I want you to tell me a story if it's permitted. And his name has been brought up on this show before, Dave Morrell. I know that back when we were going to university together, that's when I first realized your dedication to university sport was when you and Dave were working together in the basement of the Aiken Center.
Yeah, and Dave Morrell is such a mentor, and again, he's a legend of many folklore when it comes to his involvement in this city. Obviously his involvement with the Fredericton Express and Fredericton Canadians, and obviously with local radio and such. So he's won many awards. So I took that when I got involved in sport. I took that passion that he had and wanted to emulate and see what I could do. And, I think that he had laid a lot of the groundwork, and I also had some of my own opinions on how to do things. And I think when I got hired at St. Thomas for the athletics department, the role that I had was very similar to Dave's role at UNB, which I had learned from him. So, and then also trying to channel my own pathway when I worked at the athletics department at Stew, and then hosting those national championships and so forth. So, and again, the scale of size of UNB and St. Thomas are much different. So we had to be a little bit more creative and more efficient with our resources, whether that's time or, financial. For sure. But, Dave was a great person to kind of work with and be mentored by. Showed that passion. I mean, he bleeds red and black.
Yes, he does.
Like through and through. And I still catch up with him once in a while when I see him, and he loved the journey that I went through. And he knows that when I moved on to school sport, it was, he knew that, there was a pathway for me, and he was very proud of the fact that, I went down that pathway as well.
You started and you worked with Dave at the Aiken Center, but you didn't quite hit the milestone of being the voice of the movie phone.
I was a little young for that, and there was also the Sprout that was on radio. Like, I've been around for a while, and there was also like Blanche Divine by Mark Roberts, and it was just back in the day when they had Norm Foster on, like prior to Fred McCausland, and it was just there's a lot of legends and lore, like talk about Jack Carr is another great person who's a wrestling voice, and a lot of great people that have lent their voice to community events across the city and across the region, and it's been an honor to be able to lend my voice when I can to some of those events as well.
And that's what got me interested as well. Like I did radio for 11 years with the Wolf. I had the longest running show on that channel, and exactly. And I used to listen to Brad Woodside and Dave Morrell all the time. They're great on the radio together, the old CFNB.
Right.
I'm not telling my age or anything, but and I'm like those guys. I always joke and say I always had the face for radio. Now we have this podcast where they actually can see us now. So like, no, but it's been fun, and I look up to those guys for the years that they've done and put their voice out there, and all the events that they were part of too as well. So,
Absolutely, yeah.
So likewise.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that kind of I think is a little different. Like I had to kind of carve my own way because a lot of these guys that we talk about, they're radio guys, so they're known in the community because they're heard like through the morning traffic and coming, going to work and coming home and all that jazz. And and I wasn't specifically a radio guy, so it was just I kind of had to carve my own path in a different way than those guys did. So
and the media changed too, right? Back in the day when it was the Gleaner, if you were on the front page of the Gleaner and you had the boys on the radio station talking about you during the drive at 5, then you had it covered. Everybody knew what was going on, right? Yeah. And then when we were going through university, the media's changed, and it has since changed again. If I'm going to take you out of the New Brunswick realm, the Fredericton realm, and I'm talking event specifics here, the beach volleyball experience, from what I remember, it's always fun running that show. It's always fun being in that atmosphere. And I've touched a little bit about it through the shows, but I've never had the opportunity to actually tell the story. And it was one of the most important things I wanted to bring up today, was to give you that opportunity to talk to us about the Pan Ams. Talk to us about how you got to the Pan Ams. You don't just show up in Toronto because you made the top of the list. Like, that was a hell of a selection process from what I remember.
Yeah, like it's intriguing because again, I started announcing volleyball at UNB,
right?
Based on the fact it was funny because Dave Morrell, I used to do the intermission hosting on the ice for the UNB hockey games.
That's right.
And when Dave Morrell got hired, I was like, well, I guess I'm done because Dave's going to take over. Like, and again, that's the respect that I have for a person like Dave.
Absolutely.
So I was asked to go announce UNB volleyball matches. I did not really know much about volleyball. I didn't play volleyball at the time, but you kind of just learn and go as you come along. And then one of the things that I remember is that like PA announcers are supposed to be monotone and only give you the straight information about the game, but then when you look at NHL games, like when a goal scored by the home team, like there's a lot of enthusiasm behind that. So I thought, well, why can't I do that for volleyball? So I started doing that for volleyball, and then trying to add a little bit more spice and giving some of the home players nicknames and such. And I think that that gelled well with a lot of the fans that were watching, so they would remember about those things. And then at one point, like, I worked at Volleyball New Brunswick for about 6 years, and I was on the Volleyball Canada's Beach Volleyball Competitions Committee.
Right.
And the committee knew that I was an announcer for volleyball matches, so they got me on center court for the beach volleyball matches that were happening. And I think part of it was to try to save money because they didn't want to pay a radio guy to come in. So I ended up doing it, and I was bilingual, and it was great. And then from there, it was just somebody noticed me, and they were hosting Canada Games like the next summer. So they said, hey, why don't you come to Canada Games? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then the next time was, like, we're hosting World Junior Beach Volleyball Championships in Halifax. Like, we need a voice like yours. So then it was going to that. And then the Volleyball Canada staff saying, like you're doing really well at this. Like, we're hosting the Pan Am Games in 2015.
Yep.
Like, we want to bring this crew. This is the crew that we want to go to Pan Am Games, because like, this is a style that is perfectly attuned to what's happening at the international levels and the pro beach volleyball tournaments that are happening across the world. And so obviously we jumped on the chance. You were DJing and you did the same thing. You worked on your craft to try to make it always better and try to engage the fans that are there, and then plus like the athletes to be to solely focus on the game, but still be energized by what's happening in the crowd and so forth. And then, and it just grows from there.
It does.
So that's kind of the pathway that kind of led to that. And then I also got to do the FIVB World Tour Finals in 2016.
Yep.
And that was the best caliber of volleyball, beach volleyball that I had done. And it was intriguing because like a small town guy from Fredericton and, getting kind of, paid to go to Toronto, stay in the Fairmont Royal York and all these advantages. And I'm like, and in this match there was 7 Olympic medals on court, which one of them was Carrie Walsh Jennings, who's like has so many gold medals to her name. And I was just like, and she's known as the best. And it was just like, and it was just like, it was such a moment that I was like, I can't believe that I've gotten to this point. Right. And the guy that I was working with, he went to the Olympics. So it was like, I was almost there, to get the Olympics. But there's circumstances that happen that may occur. And then, and now like I've kind of focused on family and coaching and all that jazz. So it's, the Olympic dream is kind of on pause for a while.
I mean, you look at the big thing that I remember. And when we took over that parking lot in downtown Halifax. Let's paint the picture here. We are 2 Fredericton boys that had the opportunity to work with an Atlantic Canadian sport entertainment company, SEA, who are still very active in the downtown Halifax and in the Nova Scotia market. And when Lars came to us and gave us the idea, he said to me, boys, here's the deal with beach volleyball. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. He said, beach volleyball is a sport just like every other professional sport. But the way that you need to create this atmosphere is there's a party going on in the beach. And if you want to watch beach volleyball, it's over here.
That's right.
So, and that I'll never forget that because like you, we had dabbled locally. We had done a few different shows and events, and we'd had our practice and we worked together and we knew we gelled. And then all of a sudden they threw call it 50,000 pounds of beach sand into a parking lot in the middle of downtown Halifax and completely transformed this space into a world-renowned, world-branded beach volleyball tournament with players from all over the world. I feel like
we're getting an event ready here for
Listen,
the NBX here.
Don't foreshadow.
We have the DJ, we have the announcer.
My to-do list is long enough right now, but to say it's not on my brain.
Could be an iconic venue. That's
right?
what we look for.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember that first night as we had our 5 o'clock meeting. Lars, you know what I'm talking about. We had that 5 p.m. Management meeting, and the vibe around the table, that hooked me.
Yeah.
That was the hook. And then all of a sudden the door opened to go to the Pan Am Games in downtown Toronto. And that was a trip.
Oh, 100%. And we like, it's funny because we thought we were at the top of our game.
Yeah, not even
close. But we were still learning, and we took everything that they told us because the producers on the back end worked the Olympics.
Yeah.
So they knew what it took, and they kind of they took us, kind of broke us down, and then rebuilt us even stronger. And then to know how to do these events and what it looks like and so forth. Yeah. And we've been able to kind of carry that. And I've mentored as well some announcers when my time at St. Thomas. And,
that's right.
That Luke Garrigan, he's, announcing the AUS basketball championships and sometimes the U Sports championships that happen like in the East Coast. So it's great to see got success from those types of people.
Go forth, young grasshopper.
That's right. That's right.
I'm hearing that this is one of your most favorite events that I'm hearing from both of you. Like, it's pretty well up there on the top. But do you have any that's up there?
Like that would be probably those two beach volleyball events that I spoke to. And Ray didn't get a chance to go to the FIVB World Tour Finals, but the Pan Am Games, to me, it was super special. Not only that it was basically the next step to the Olympics, but it was also doing that with, a best friend of mine, right? And the dynamic duo that people have called us.
Yeah. The dynamic duo is back, folks.
And it was funny because we were called by Bill Hunt, the Pan Am Pals.
That's the Pan Am Pals. That's right. Bill did that article.
Nicknames now.
Yeah. So it was really neat to be able to like speak to those experiences because not many people get to have that experience, and and it's really we won't see that type of event for a long time. So
that was a special event, and it became this sort of buzz around downtown Toronto. By the second day, we had our accreditations on, and we were using public transit for the most part to get back and forth to the venue on the CNE grounds. And once people realized what those badges were, you almost became like an overnight celebrity that nobody really knew who you were, but they just thought you were important. And it was awesome. It was funny I want to go back to the Pan Am Games. Do you have a moment or a story from those Pan Am Games? You got to remember, like, again, I've got to set the tone because we know it. We've got it up here in our brains, but not a lot of people quite understand. We are in a production trailer as part of an Australian production company that is used to producing the men's Olympic hockey. And these are the guys that are guiding us and producing the show. And it takes a small army to do this. So we've got backup. We've got yourself and myself as MC and DJ. We have an in-venue Naj Caliber. Like, what a guy.
Oh, unbelievable.
He can work a crowd like anybody. He's doing his thing. And then we also, because they were long days, you need two rosters. You need roster A and roster B so that the schedules can fit because the games go all day. So I'm here sitting beside and DJing beside the official DJ for the Toronto Raptors. And this is this kid's full-time job. Wow. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Here's Kale doing his thing, and he's talking on his phone in between matches about his pre-production show for the Raptors game that Friday night. And it was just wild. And you had your MCs.
Yeah, he was from the Canary Islands, and he'd been to many Olympics as well. So it was like, great guy. So that was another thing, like, to be matched up with those types of people that have, obviously great experience, and we're, again, like coming from small town. Small, like a community here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, and making it to the big show and the big smoke. So it was, but like it was funny to think about moments. Like I find that some of those some events are so memorable when you overcome adversity. And I don't know if you remember this, but there ended up being like a massive downpour rainstorm that happened.
I remember the rainstorm.
And and then what happened was the weight of that rain actually pushed down on the doors of the trailer that we were working in. So we actually were locked in for about 3 hours in this production trailer, and we couldn't get out. And it was just like, everybody was like, okay, how are we going to do this? Like, are we going to be stuck here and all that jazz? And, but then we end up being, liberated. And then, but it was just like, but everybody got to gel so well. Like, I find that, like, we hosted, when I was at St. Thomas, we hosted the CCAA Men's Volleyball Nationals in the second week of March of 2020, which is when COVID hit. And it was just like, but like, obviously we had to say, to the fans that they couldn't come into the building, but like the crew that was able to stay kind of gelled really well because we were just focused on getting the athletes the opportunity to play, we were the last two sporting events that happened for like 9 months time. One was the women's version. We had the men's version, and everything else was canceled. So it was a pretty special moment that we were able to continue on with that. But again, the Pan Am Games, like, that was one special moment, and it was, and it came from, being around a lot of great people that all had one mission, one goal, and that was to put on the greatest show on earth.
We talk about volunteers a lot on this show because I know you're no stranger to this, without volunteers, a lot of this stuff just cannot fly. And the Pan Am Games is no different. You're in a big city with big budgets and world-class producers and a world-class product. But at the end of the day, literally the small community of people they had as volunteers stuck out to me. Because we were there as paid employees, but could not even come close to achieving the overarching goal of everybody's vision without those volunteers. And for the beach volleyball, I can't remember, you might remember the number alone, but the number of volunteers just for the beach volleyball venue itself during the Pan Am Games was over 300. Just for that. So literally thousands of volunteers to produce this show that was spread all over Toronto.
Right.
During that week.
Hats off to the volunteers.
Oh, 100%. And we deal with volunteers in school sport, and it's just like they put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and they're so passionate, and like that's why I love working with our volunteers.
I've got a question. I've been sitting here the whole show. There's kind of something different about our set. And I've been looking and I've been wondering, what's the story behind this? I see a hockey puck up here between the two hats, the two howdy hats here for NBX.
Yeah. Is
there a story behind that?
There is a little bit of a story behind this, and it's perfect timing that Eric is here for it. As we made reference to outside of the beach volleyball stuff, Eric has been involved in hockey for as long as I can remember. Played and refereed.
Yeah, played and refereed hockey here.
At the Coliseum here at the exhibition grounds.
Played roller hockey here in the summertime. There you go. Had a league here one summer.
Yep, that's right. And these were, again, those grounds, that building, it's transformed over time, and because it used to be a hockey venue, we had a lot of scheduled ice time. Yeah, it's in high demand, and this venue helped solve that. So this puck was actually recently found in the Coliseum. So we did the digging, and we're pretty confident that this is most likely the last hockey puck to come out of the Coliseum. The last set of games the last time the ice surface would have been in have been in the 90s. Probably mid to early 90s, maybe a little bit after that. So we've just found a piece of history, ironically, on the same day that the voice of so many venues across the city for hockey, volleyball, and beyond shows up at our doorsteps.
And that might be an errant shot that I sent off, but I don't know. I only played here till about Pee-wee, so I don't think I had the strength to put it up there.
You weren't hitting the rafters.
No, I don't think so.
And the same day, we even come across paperwork that they kept on degrees of the ice and when the ice was surfaced and temperatures and everything too, a lot of history. So
everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason.
Well, and it's funny because we talked about the history of the grounds and so forth, and we've been doing a lot of history projects as well. And one of the best. I love sports venues and venues such as this, and to think about the exhibition palace of the 1800s and so forth, that intrigues me quite a bit. So it's great to see the history that these grounds have gone through and what's happened in sport across the province, and some of the history that we've seen, with hockey and
big hockey town.
Oh yeah,
big wrestling town too.
Yeah, and there used to be soccer games that were happening on the Raceway Field. At one point in time. Yep. So it's just I think Fredericton High School played there at one point.
Some of the old Google Maps, if you get a Google Map image, you can actually still see the outline of the soccer fields.
Yeah.
Or football if Trevor's interviewing you.
That's
football,
right.
Yeah.
I guess I did have a little involvement with UMB sports.
There you go.
Okay.
I was a bus driver for Trius that took them to all their events.
There you go.
Yeah,
Man of many hats.
So we've all had a little involvement there. And I played hockey back in the day as well in the Boys Town, Doketown area, and actually played here at the Coliseum before, played at the Aiken Center before. And like you were saying, we lost the ice surface here because of cracks and the piping and stuff like that. Yep. But it made another venue for people to come to, like Savages and RV World and the Christmas Craft Show, which doubled the size this past year. And things are getting bigger. But the other places, it's a lot of ice time.
Yeah.
So they don't have the time to have these events, which is what I'm pushing, what I'm getting to is we need this place here for these other events. It's more affordable for them, and we need places to get people back together again, because you talked about COVID and stuff and how things kind of, we all know what COVID is like. Yeah. It's time everybody's wanting to get back out again, and we're wanting to get back to those events that you talked about, how much you enjoyed and how everybody came together and stuff. And we're going to start to grow again.
Yeah. That's right.
And good things grow here.
Well, there's no better feeling. And Eric, I want to know what's next, or what you've got on the agenda next, or what's coming up in your life next after I make this comment. But there's no better, and I know you'll agree with me, there's no better feeling. You cannot replicate the emotion that you get from bringing 15,000 people together in one cheerable moment.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
100%.
Just think about the goosebumps.
The energy, yeah.
It's unreal. And you've done that. You've done that many times throughout your career, and I see no slowing down in the future. So we will have those moments again. But what in the short term or long term, depending on your schedule here, what do you got? What do you got cooking in the Eric Moffat world of life, recreation, and volunteer work?
Well, the U7 boys Timbers soccer team for FDSA is starting on Monday.
Big times.
Oh, 100%. My son Leo is big time, like into soccer. He did some spring soccer after the hockey season ended, and he scored 3 goals last weekend and set up the game winner. So he's all in on soccer, and so we're looking. He's big. He wants to watch the World Cup and such.
Cool.
But from the work front, from school sport perspective, we continue to kind of work on making improvements to our system. We added ultimate frisbee this past year, so I think that's great, and it provides an accessible sport, low cost of entry, new demographic to potentially participate in our realm. And then we continue to look at how we host our provincial championships again, and have some more championship moments, and have people riding the emotions, whether they're high or whether they're low. And from there it's just kind of riding it in the summer and taking a good summer break and focusing on that coaching and
are you coaching soccer this year?
Oh yeah, I'm head coach. Oh yeah.
There you go. How much does that job pay?
It is it pays by all the smiles that I see at the end of the night. So
a volunteer, and that's all a part of it. The volunteers at the events, but it also takes volunteers to keep youth involved and engaged in our community. Pickleball.
Okay.
Is that a school sport?
It might be occurring recreationally in schools, but we don't have the framework right now to have like competitions that are like provincially based and so forth. But
it's hot right now,
like there's other sports that are occurring that kind of happen at the local level.
Okay.
There's a lot of cricket happening in the Moncton area. There's I know there's ball hockey, flag football, lacrosse, like those kind of things. But we're a bottom up approach when it comes to our sport offerings. So like the schools have to come from like multiple, and all of our regions kind of come forward and say, we'd like to have this sport on board. And that's how we got there with Ultimate Frisbee is, a lot of regions were doing it. They, and there's interest in the major centers. And so that's kind of how it was able to come to fruition. But, we kind of continue to work with how we develop sport, but also like we have to do it within capacity too. Right. So it requires some work and making sure that the regulations make sense in a school sport environment, right? Like, school sport is an extension of the classroom in our communities, and that's what we want to focus on.
I want to give a shout out to our, because we're recorded, our podcast, and we put the podcast on YouTube and on our website.
Yep.
And nbex.ca.
Yep.
And I want to give a shout out because we're worldwide. Like we're seeing, like so our European fans, it's football that we're talking about because we have our behind the cameraman, Trevor Jones.
That's where he likes to
football.
Big Arsenal fan. We were talking about it off camera. So
we're going to make Trevor a faceless celebrity of downtown Fredericton by the end of this podcast.
That's what our aim is.
Well, listen, this, like I said at the top of the show, look, we could share stories all day long.
100%.
And there's a whole
sometimes the same stories over and over again.
And that has happened. And it probably will
that
continue.
Exciting, no wonder.
Yeah. Well, they're not all that exciting, but some of them are pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
I guess as we sign off here, there's an opportunity. If there's anything else you can think of that you've done some really cool stuff for our city. And you continue to. You've done some cool stuff for Atlantic Canada. You've represented Atlantic Canada on the national level. And I'm sure that there'll be more opportunities in the future come your way. And if there's anything else a shout out you want to give or any other story you want to tell, say hi to all your fans out there. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, again, it's I kind of try to be kind of on the back end and not, put
Yeah.
myself at the forefront when it comes to, when I announce it's about, the real performers
That's right,
and not about me. So again,
Thank
I'm
the
just trying to
people
give them
who
the
support you.
Oh yeah, but I mean, again, it's been really fun. I know we've got a beach volleyball event happening here locally in a couple weeks.
That's right, yeah.
So that's gonna be at Willie O'Ree Court. So stay tuned on that.
We're back at it, aren't
Yeah,
we?
back at it.
we are.
We got invited to Canada Games trials for last year. So great to see some athletes that went on to Team New Brunswick and put some great performances in. Again, I think that's what is great to see is, and it's hard to name all those performers and athletes because I've also done Canada Day celebrations and Canada Day kickoffs and so forth. So it's I'd hate to mention people
And leave
some people
Right.
out. So it's just when it comes down to it, it's just when we're on the back end and trying to put on a great show that you're putting on, in the middle of it. It's really for those people. So it's just we always love doing it for those people and for that.
Well,
on
and
that
at that,
note,
we're going to vacate
Sounds like
the
class is
building.
dismissed.
Well, you
So,
burned her down. We better get going. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Lots of great guests to come. Good things grow here.